And we continue our look at the fall of Afghanistan with retired Army General H.R. McMaster. He was the National Security Advisor to former President Trump. He's now a senior fellow at Stanford University's Hoover Institution. General McMaster, thank you very much for joining us. The core argument from President Biden is that it was not in the interest of the United States to keep troops in Afghanistan any longer, whether it was 1 month, a year, or 10 years. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think it's just wrong on a couple of counts, Judy. First of all, we were there to preserve and protect our own interests, our security interests. We know for a fact, right? We know from historical experience that terrorist organizations, when they control territory and populations and resources, that they become orders of magnitude more dangerous, right? We saw that with the mass murder attacks of 9/11. We saw it again when Vice President Biden thanked President Obama for ending the war in Iraq. Well, hey, wars don't end when one party disengages. And of course, in Iraq, we saw al-Qaeda in Iraq morph into ISIS, the most destructive terrorist organization in history. And then, of course, we had to go back. What I found also that was fundamentally, I think, wrong about the president's approach here is that he thinks that a lost war in Afghanistan isn't going to have consequences. We're already seeing the horrible humanitarian consequences, but there will be severe political consequences in connection with our credibility with our allies and partners in other countries who will wonder how reliable we are. But of course, it will have big security implications in connection with jihadist terrorists who will declare victory over the world's only superpower.
Well,
and of course, they didn't defeat us. We defeated ourselves, Judy, which is what's so sad about it.
And I apologize for interrupting, but I do want to ask you about the terrorist threat, because we hear the president saying this is something that is coming from a number of countries right now on the African continent, in Libya, in Yemen, and he named other countries, and that this is something the U.S. doesn't have to have boots on the ground to watch and to take care of. What about that argument?
It's a pipe dream, Judy. The way that we've made ourselves safe really since 9/11 is by partnering with partners across the world who actually bear the brunt of the fight against jihadist terrorists. You know, the president disparaged Afghan soldiers today, but we should remember that tens of thousands of them gave their lives to protect the freedoms that they've enjoyed since 2001, but also to protect us really from modern day barbarians. I mean, Afghanistan is in many ways on a modern day frontier between barbarism and civilization. Just right across the border, Judy, there are over 20 U.S. designated jihadist terrorist organizations. And a victory for the Taliban, a reestablishment of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, is a victory for al-Qaeda and those other groups. And so how could it be that I'm sorry. Go ahead, Judy.
You know, I apologize for interrupting, but I do want to get in several more questions. And one is the president repeatedly saying that Afghan troops, how can you ask U.S. troops to fight for a country when the Afghan troops themselves are giving up so quickly?
Well, if we think what led to this collapse, really, it occurred across two administrations, the Trump and the Biden administrations, where essentially we had this delusion that we could actually partner with the Taliban against terrorists, when in fact we were enabling a terrorist organization itself. And this is the negotiations with, the Taliban Political Commission in Doha. That was always a pipe dream, Judy, and it was a key element of our self-delusion. And then what we did is we delivered really tremendous psychological blows to the Afghan people, Afghan leaders, and Afghan security forces on our way out. You know, Judy, if we were going to leave Afghanistan, why didn't we just leave? Why did we make concession after concession on our way out that forced the Afghan government to release 5,000 of some of the most heinous people on earth?
And some of those
went right back to terrorism. And then, of course, it went right back to the battlefield, as we know, right? And then why did we not insist on a ceasefire?
And again, my apology for interrupting, but some of those concessions, of course, came during former President Trump's administration when you were there as National Security Advisor. I do want to ask you, General McMaster.
No, Judy, I have to correct you on that. That was not when I was there as National Security Advisor. When I was there, I think the president put into place the only reasoned and sustainable approach that we've had in Afghanistan, but then he abandoned it. And you're correct. I mean, I'm not making partisan points here. I'm saying that this is really an American catastrophe, and it's a catastrophe that was going to have, already we see, profound humanitarian consequences, but it will have profound political and security consequences as well.
General H.R. McMaster, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, Judy, I just want to say, too, there's a lot more we can do now to stem this humanitarian disaster. And I hope that the Biden administration does more, provides safe passage, provides safe spaces to get more Afghans out. And I think that this is what all of us should demand of our leaders at this point.
General McMaster, we appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Judy.